With the changing nature of consumerism in India, the e-commerce industry has gone through significant shifts over the past years, leading to massive evolution of the industry. The growing demand for convenient deliveries has brought about a new revolution in the consumer goods and retail supply chain. Ecom Express presents The Big Shift, Measuring the Forces of Change, powered by GBS, has organized power-packed discussions on how businesses are rethinking and redesigning their strategies to stay agile and resilient in a highly changing environment. The gala event focused on delivering the best in the industry, which is purpose-driven, profit-generating and bringing excellence. The event was graced by the chief guest Shri Jitendra Singh, Minister of State for Science and Technology, Minister of State in the Prime Minister's Office, Ministry of Personal Public Grievances and Pensions, Department of Atomic Energy, Department of Space.
I think the best way to appreciate a phenomena or whatever, particularly a changing phenomena, is to compare it with what it was. We were just about 350 startups, or maximum 400 in 2014. Today, we are close to 1.5 lakh, more than 100 unicorns. At the global index, we are ranked number 3.
Next in line was the welcome address by Ajay Chitkara, CEO and MD Ecom Express. He opined on the issue of changing landscape in industries in general and e-commerce in particular. Here are some snapshots from his address.
Today, we are going to talk about the shifts. In my view, the shift happens. Whichever way you look at, shifts actually happen. There is so much happening around us. We are in the center of the world. The center of gravity is changing. We are seeing the big shifts which is happening in the country. Our economy is growing by 7%. E-commerce industry is growing by 11%. Gati Shakti, ONDC, and many more projects which are coming, they are going to change the way this whole industry operates. This is another shift which we all are seeing, and I think most of you belongs to this industry. E-commerce is also changing. In India, there are around 800 million users. Last year, there were 114 billion transactions happened for e-commerce. Almost around 114 transactions per person per year happened in this country, which means half a transaction per person every day. This market is growing exponentially. By 2030, this market is expected to be around $200 billion. That's a shift which we are seeing big time. But that's not the real shift. The real shift which we are seeing in logistic industry from where we come from. Earlier, e-commerce used to happen in bigger towns. Now, 60% of e-commerce is happening in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. We operate on 27,000 PIN codes. We see 100% of these PIN codes are doing e-commerce. That's the real shift which is happening in this particular country. The next shift which we notice, earlier there only used to be the bigger horizontal platform. Now the change is happening. D2C is growing. All what we did, it resulted into almost around 1 lakh sellers. We deliver around 2 billion packets in last 8 to 10 years time. And these packets which we deliver almost every part of the country. And we have also generated around 3,000 crore of revenue in this business. I think I'll just share with you the shift which we need to make as an industry, because what we are doing is not enough. We all, as an industry, as a partner, need to do few things together. The first thing which I feel we need to do it together, look, we can give you a product. Each one of you can treat us as a vendor who can come and deliver the products and send a packet as you want and wherever you want. But the amount of data which we have built and created, every return is a cost. Every loss is a cost. Every wrong address is a cost. We have that intelligence already built in. We live for it. If you are doing any business, we can collaborate together. We can make sure we solve these costs which are creating the impact in this industry. E-commerce industry and the logistic industry wherein we operate, they are almost same. It's a proxy of e-commerce industry. It will grow together with e-commerce industry, but we as an industry need to solve some of these issues which has been highlighted.
Ecom Express has also organized some thought-provoking discussions which delved deep into the core of the e-commerce industry. In one such panel, the industry leaders discussed and opined on the topic of crafting new-age supply chain strategies that deliver business value. Take a look.
Saurav, you have been in this industry for very long, and you have dealt both in the value segment, you have dealt in vertical fashion for a very long time, you have built supply chains for both. I think one thing that always excites me is data. What, according to you, is data in supply chain? How do you use data and analytics to better understand and meet consumer demands? And more interestingly, how do you ensure customer experience through data?
A lot of times people believe supply chain's job starts once the order is placed, right? But I think supply chain plays a very large part in converting that customer and making that, placing that order in the first time. So I think in the pre-order journey, the first place where data plays a very large part is how do you promise and how do you ensure that you're promising the best stats to the customer. I think data plays a very large part in it. The more real-time inputs that you can get into how congested a particular node is, what the weather conditions are, what the road conditions are, what the road restrictions are in a country like ours, that allows you to give a more tighter and a better promise to the customer. And I think that's the first place where data, supply chain data plays a very large part in the conversion funnel even before an order is placed. I think the second part that comes in is the value segment. The value segment today has a large challenge around addresses. The next part is reducing wastage in the system. I think this is again one large area where it plays a very large part, and it can also play a large part in how to reduce costs in the system. And finally, one of the things that data helps you also analyze and understand is your last mile quality.
VC, my man, my question is, how are you going to enable all this? There are so many challenges in the supply chain. How do you plan to actually enable the change of consumerism that is going to hit us?
I see a lot of different themes that are emerging, Dipanjan. I think the first large theme I see is I think the day of one solution fits all, I think is gone. And I think every platform has unique requirement. Every product has a very unique requirement. So I think different products for different e-commerce platform is the need of the day. Same day delivery, next day delivery, reverse pickups, quality checks. I think all of this we already have, and I think to a good extent, whatever is the requirement today of different platforms, I think Ecom Express is ready for it. The second big theme that I saw today was, I think every platform wants to know whether I have one shipment or 10 shipments, 1,000, a lakh, can I rely on a logistics partner? Right? Because Ashneer was mentioning there's an issue of density. We have the largest reach, and I think Ecom Express has taken pride in having the largest reach in the whole of country despite the density issue. I would also proudly say that we have actually built e-commerce in India by way of first building the reach. So when it comes to reach and when it comes to scalability, I think Ecom Express is well set. We have India's largest automation centers, 30 of them, the largest in India. We have the highest reach. So I think that's well set for the next 2-3 financial years, I could say easily. Third big one that I can see for today is as we go into the tier 2, tier 3 towns of India, where the difficulty of delivering goes up exponentially. But that's where the market is. And I think technology is going to make all the difference, and we are investing heavily into it. I'm a little happy that, whatever are the challenges that the panel members were speaking today, I think we are well set for it. But I also do anticipate a few things I think that we can get ready for, and we'll do that. So yeah, Ecom Express is ready for every entrepreneur and everyone that's out here.
In another panel discussion, industry stalwarts like Vagish Gupta, Managing Director, Partner Group, and Himanshu Nima, Warburg Pincus discussed on the topic of investors' lens, navigating investments to deliver the consumption shifts. Here are some takeaways.
Vagish, I'll come to you. What is your investment thesis in the current changing landscape? What excites you?
Two broad buckets of themes that we are really excited about. Right? The first bucket is just explosion of consumption in the country. And I think several driving factors to that. The Honorable Minister talked about the mobile phone earlier. Aspirations have shot through the roof. Earlier, one would think that, look, our older generation was different in terms of consumption. The younger generation is driving consumption. But the mobile phone is actually a key contributor to the explosion of the economy. Aspirations are going up everywhere. The second big aspect to that is affordability. And the third is general stability in the economy. And this is, in my view, giving rise to a massive ecosystem, not only brands, not only D2C, not only consumption, but you have logistics players, right? You need an ecosystem of delivery services to service these. There's an entire ecosystem of financial products, buy now, pay later. But there are several themes within mass market domestic consumption that we're really excited about and we are going after.
Manshu, how do you think investments in healthcare, education and technology can contribute to it?
We have more than 600 million people who are below 25. With that amount of people, they're looking for three things. I think three things are important. First is they need to get jobs. They need to have high quality access to education and healthcare. And third, we need to spur this spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship. Those three things. There is a unique chance to create domestic champions who can conquer the world. And I think those will largely come from manufacturing. The second sector we are seeing is EMS. One of our portfolio companies, Boat, you would have seen those headphones. Yeah. They have shifted their manufacturing, which was 80% insourced from China to almost 90% now in India. Largely thanks to the PLI schemes. And I think that has a ripple effect on creating jobs, but more importantly, stable supply chains. Yeah. And they can now work with stable partners like Ecom Express as they think about delivering products. This is one example, but there are multiple such D2C brands that could benefit from having a supply chain operator like Ecom Express, partner with them. And frankly, that creates jobs. If you think about Ecom Express, they hire, Ajay said this earlier, you hire like a lakh people, 50,000 on board, but maybe a multiplier of that through other opportunities. So I think that all of that goes towards creating jobs and employment.
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Next in line was a Power Pack presentation by Amit Chaudhary, Chief Product and Technology Officer, Ecom Express. He talked about the newly launched AI-based logistics solution like Bulls.ai and Orbit. Take a look.
We have a Bullseye, which is one of the biggest address LLM that we have built. It's the first of its kind in India. You can't solve the address problem by using regular programming ways. So you need to resort to something which is called the ML techniques. You solve it using ML techniques, and then also you start hitting a particular boundary. How do you push the boundary? So what happened is we basically went back. We saw what's going on with the entire address space. We had a bunch of addresses that were there. We wanted to break it down into tokens, and we put it through a very complex engine which you call the GPT-2, and we made something which we are calling it Bulls.ai or Bullseye. So I'll just quickly take you through what is the problem that we are trying to solve. So poor address quality has been a problem. There was Saurabh from Meesho, he talked about how data is helping solve this problem. There are different types of addresses that we enter all through, right? I mean, there are different ways in which you enter the addresses, whether you're entering the address in a passport or you go down to your fashion app, it just drastically changes. You keep changing your PIN codes, you keep changing, misrepresenting your words, which are your address names, the localities keep changing. So I just given you an example of how different addresses can be of the same home, and how do you decipher it? You can't decipher it again using a regular technique. The next point that we want to talk about is there's a lot of friction and a lot of different things that we understood when we talked to a lot of sellers. We understood that there are 3-4 major concerns the sellers have. The onboarding is very clunky, right? You take so many details of data. I mean, we want to collect as much data as possible. It doesn't help anyone. How do we make sure that we're only collecting relevant fields of data? How do we make sure that we make your pricing very simple? That's another thing that we want to talk about. The real-time tracking and visibility, this is something that should come completely built into the platform. And finally, if you take a look at it, you should be able to raise all the disputes and claims through one piece. So what we are launching today is Orbit. Orbit is the connected platform. This is one home, everything that revolves around the logistics universe for your interaction with us. It is going to be homed in one place. The product promise is very simple. It should take you 1 minute to register on board, 1 minute to manifest, another minute to start shipping. This is as easy as should get, because if you can get a loan in 5 minutes, you should be able to register and get your stuff shipped in 3. That's what we have done. We have built it out. We want to make sure that you again register. It's already live. A lot of people have onboarded to this platform, but please go ahead and use it. Feel free to provide all the feedback. We are going to continue to make it better and richer for you. Finally, we'll talk about the customer's customer, which is the user. The need for speed is pretty much all over the place. The Instagram world doesn't want anything to be delivered in 5 days or 7 days. Everything is coming back to the single same-day delivery. How do we solve for that? So what we have done is we have basically taken a look at what we need to do in our network engineering design. How do we make sure that micro-fulfillment centers are coming all over the place, different fulfillment centers that are very close to where our last-mile facilities are. We are able to make sure that we are increasing the runs. We are increasing more vehicle drops to these locations. We are adding people into different shifts. All of that so that you can go as late as possible in your cutoffs and make sure that we are there to help you through this. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me. Thank you.
Next was a fireside chat with Ajay Chitkara, CEO and MD Ecom Express, and Ashneer Grover, Shark Tank judge, who indulged in a conversation and discussed about customer acquisition and businesses about online versus offline.
Ashneer, one question to you. There's a lot of talk around omni-channel, D2C. Any views on that? How do you see this whole omni-channel discussion which is happening? And there are a lot of people in the hall here who belongs to that segment. Is there any advice, any suggestions for them?
See, ऑनलाइन और ऑफलाइन दोनों ही बड़ी मार्केट है. प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि जब आप इंटरनेट बिजनेस बनाने लगते हो तो कहीं पे आपका ना एक बायस आ जाता है कि मेरे को डिजिटली कस्टमर एक्वायर करना है. मेरे को हमेशा लगता है कि कस्टमर सस्ता कहाँ पे मिल रहा है वहाँ पे एक्वायर कर लो. जब मैं भी बना रहा था तो एक चीज़ मेरे को पूछते थे यार कि तुम्हारे मॉडल में प्रॉब्लम है. तो एक एजेंट को भेजता है दुकान पे और वो जाके उनको ऐप डाउनलोड कराता है और उनको QR चिपका के आता है. तो मैंने बोला इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या है? एंड दे सेड कि डिजिटल नहीं है. तो मैंने बोला अगर यही काम मैं डिजिटली करूँगा, प्रॉब्लम समझो. हिंदुस्तान में 140 करोड़ लोग हैं, 70 करोड़ के पास फ़ोन है. उसमें से मेरे को 2-2.5 करोड़ दुकानदार ढूंढने हैं. ठीक है, तो मैं 70 करोड़ लोगों को टारगेट करूँगा ताकि मैं उन 2-2.5 करोड़ दुकानदार पे पहुँचूँ. तो मेरा वैसे ही कन्वर्जन रेशियो 1/35 है. तो मेरी कॉस्ट कितनी ज़्यादा आएगी एक्विजिशन की एक बंदी. उसकी जगह अगर मेरे को पता है यार ये खान मार्केट है, ये लाजपत नगर मार्केट है, वहीं पे मैंने मार्केट के स्कोप के हिसाब से 3 एजेंट 4 एजेंट छोड़ दिए. सुबह से शाम उनको क्या करना है? पहले एक दुकान में घुसना है, फिर दूसरी दुकान में घुसना है, फिर तीसरे में घुसना है. तीसरे में कोई लंच कर रहा है, बोलेगा चलो ठीक है वापसी में चक्कर लगा लूँगा. तो मेरी कस्टमर एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट एक मर्चेंट की 200 रुपये आती थी. उस टाइम पे हम बोलते थे $3 के करीब, विच वॉज सो लो. मतलब मैं कुछ भी डिजिटली करके वो कभी कर ही नहीं सकता था. सो घूम फिर के आपको ये देखना है कि आपका कस्टमर एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट लो कहाँ पड़ रहा है. ऑफलाइन में पड़ रहा है, ऑफलाइन कर लो. ऑनलाइन में पड़ रहा है, ऑनलाइन कर लो. क्या फ़र्क पड़ रहा है? एंड ऑफ द डे धंधा चलना चाहिए.
India's growth story with logistics efficiency, the big shift, was the next topic of discussion, where Amish Tripathi, author and diplomat, along with Sumita Daura, IAS Special Secretary, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, opined on government initiatives in infra and logistics sector and India's global standpoint.
So let me start with Ms. Daura, you first. The government has been pushing a lot of initiatives around infrastructure development and logistics services particularly. What do you think is the government priority for this year, particularly for logistics?
If you recall, in the last budget, there was a lot of emphasis on infrastructure and investments and last mile connectivity issues, where 100 critical last mile connectivity gaps had been there was an allocation of 75,000 crore rupees with private sector investment as well. All of those have been sanctioned and they are under implementation. In short, big infra push and huge investments, all aimed towards logistics efficiency and a more efficient logistics ecosystem.
Amish, how are you as a global citizen viewing this? And I know you have exposure and experience in international trade and finance as well, and you've been sort of an avid follower of logistics in general. How do you see that from the global diaspora perspective?
The global logistics industry is actually almost a divine creation. What you see today in the last few decades, the complexity of the supply chains, the range of products that are delivered, at the cost of supply that's delivered, this is historically unprecedented. Normally logistics cost used to be such a heavy component of product cost. What has happened in the last few decades is really for human beings transformational. But among the things that one saw as when I lived as a diplomat in the UK in the last 4.5 years, and London is a truly international city. It is the heart, among the hearts of international finance, or a lot of logistics. The logistics industry is very efficient, but many of the underlying geopolitical assumptions that built this are kind of coming into question now. Sea trade used to be very easy and free, which is why you could have an Apple phone with components from, many dozens of countries and assembled in China and then sold all over the world. Now what's happening is many of the supply chains are splintering. You will have various different, perhaps, industrial groups forming. Many of the trade bottlenecks, I don't know how many of you have been tracking what the Houthis have done on the Red Sea. I'm sure logistics people have been tracking this. Now, this is something that's going to impact logistics dramatically, right? Global logistics. And to that point, I think India has an even bigger role to play. So first of all, if Western companies are going to friendshore from the big communist nation to our north, India can be a big beneficiary of it. But if India can provide security to some of these international trade bottlenecks, among which is the Red Sea, I'm sure you're aware of the problems on the Panama Canal as well. But the Indian Ocean bottlenecks, if India provides security, we will benefit tremendously from it. We will help the world as well. And that, to me, is a huge opportunity that India has. It's not just a logistics opportunity, it's a geopolitical opportunity.
The big shift measuring the forces of change presented by Ecom Express and powered by GBS navigated the dynamic landscape of the logistics industry, marked by significant shifts in e-commerce and direct-to-consumer space. Ecom Express stands at the forefront of driving ecosystem transformation.